Hey rail fans and model railroaders, welcome to episode 10 of our build series on getting back on track with Steve. Today, we're going to go ahead and get busy on our backdrop. Now, a backdrop is an important part of any model railroad layout, but why is that? Well, first, it keeps the focus on the layout itself. It eliminates outside distractions from your layout area. Secondly, it can help to add depth to a scene as you're laying your scenery around with your tracks and your railroad. So you get that depth, and it also will give a more realistic look by adding some background to it. So why don't you follow along here? We'll get busy and we'll get this backdrop all put in place. I'm a big believer in creating a repeatable process. So here I'm making jigs to install on the uprights to position each panel in the corners. I'm using number 8 cabinet screws to fasten these panels into place. The jigs are 2 inches wide with stops installed on each side so they fit flush on the upright. They have a 1/4 inch piece of plywood at 1 3/4 inches wide so the panel edge is centered on the uprights. So this works out pretty well because I can move them along and install each panel exactly the same. The other thing I'm working on is positioning the panels 3/4 of an inch above the deck using the foam as a spacer. This will allow me to draw the arc of the curve on the foam. Once I draw them, I can position the panel down against the deck and fasten it into place. This way, when I cut and place the foam, it should fit really nicely on the contour of the curve. Once again, we can move along to our 3rd corner, place our foam in place, install the jigs, grab our panel, push it into position, mark the foam, position the panel, and fasten away. Here we are going to add an upright in the position we need to support the end of the panels. I miscalculated this position when I built the bench work. Also, I didn't really consider that we might have to move these uprights. So I screwed them in from the wall side, and that makes them pretty well unmovable without tearing the whole bench work apart. Small issue, easy solution. Now we can just position our foam, install our jigs, grab the panel, put it into place. Once marked, we can put our panel down against the deck, go ahead and fasten everything up. Then with all the curved panels installed, we can install the Luan panels to fill the gap between them. So you might note on some of these uprights that as I'm screwing them in, they have a little bit of movement. At this time, that's not really a problem. It's not something we want to leave for the long term, but I'm going to build a shelf over the top to contain our lighting for the layout. And once we install that, and we'll be able to put them up right toward the existing ceiling, it should stiffen everything up so there shouldn't be a lot of movement. And it worked out pretty well that each of these panels are 8 foot long and they fit just about perfectly in between the curved sections. We only had one short panel leading up to the entrance of the swing gate. That's easily cut on the table saw with a little assistance from Roxanne. She's such a good helper. Here we're installing our very last Luant panel of 8 foot length and another good fit. Any gaps that might be between the panels, we can go ahead and fill those later and sand them out before we paint. Last little bit. And then once everything is installed, what a huge difference in the look and the feel of this layout. We made great progress today, and we're getting excited to move on to the next bit. We'll be able to finish cutting out and laying the rest of the foam, getting glued in and installed, fill our seams and our gaps, sand it out, get to painting, covering up this pink. And at long last, we're getting closer to being able to lay some track and run some trains. Well, there you go. We managed to get all the backdrops up and in place. We only had to change around some of the backing boards a little bit to support, but we ended up with some real nice curves. The backing material that we ended up with curved real nice without having to wet it down or anything. So I'm real happy with that, and I think it looks great. So now we can focus on getting after filling seams, doing a little bit of sanding, cutting the final bit of our foam, and getting it glued down, and we'll be ready to add some paint and cover up some of this pink. So remember to make sure to hit like, hit subscribe, leave us some comments. We like to interact with our fans. If you can, make sure you share our page with those you know, and we'll see you next week on Getting Back on Track with Steve. Thanks.